I'd just like to touch a little bit on monitoring of our waterways. At the moment, we're heavily reliant on state of the environment monitoring and reporting, and of course this is strictly from a Western scientific method, and so to reconnect the whānau with their section of the awa, it's very important that they get the opportunity to go out and do their own cultural monitoring, because what you get is you get an interpretation of Western science coming from a strictly, I guess, a Western science attitude or regime. But when you look at that data from a Māori point of view, you might come up with a different outcome. If I give an example, where you get fish passage, so fish passage may be measured or monitored at a certain site, and it's fine for that site, but that doesn't actually mean that fish passage throughout the whole of the catchment is okay. And for tangata whenua, the importance of fish passage, it can't be overstated in terms of fish recruitment of indigenous species. So a high percentage of our native species, they are diadromous, so they spend part of their life in the ocean and part in the freshwater environment. So they pass through the estuaries and they need access to the sea at certain times of the year. And then it's whether the sea is actually available to them at that time of the year. When too much water comes out of the river, well, then the river probably doesn't, sometimes it may not have enough velocity to keep the access or the river mouth open, and so then our fish species, our taonga, can't get access either into the ocean or back into the river from the ocean. So if we take the koaro, so there's one species that it's part of the whitebait run, and then it comes in from the ocean and goes all the way up as far as it can, and it lives a lot of its life up in the higher reaches, and then of course it comes back down into the ocean to breed and to spawn. And so at certain times of the year there needs to be more water in the river so that fish passage and that access is available to them to just, perform their normal sort of stuff, their normal life cycle stages. And perhaps in some of our rivers the flows aren't quite great enough to allow that to happen. Now if we look at, if we take the Ngāti for an example, the minimum flow site is out there at Fern Hill. It's 2,400 litres per second. But then when you go up further, some of the tributaries should have a minimum flow in their own right, because a tributary under the RMA is a river, and the health of the ecosystems within rivers is something that needs to be protected under the legislation. And often this doesn't appear to be the case in terms of the smaller tributaries. Sure, I understand that they will dry up under certain drought events, and that will be a natural occurrence, but then you get what occurs naturally and what is induced through too much abstraction. So management of tributaries is very important to ensure that they have sufficient water to protect what is there as a part of the natural ecosystem, and then how do we protect that through the irrigation season by ensuring that not too much water comes out of those tributaries.